Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Reflect and Revive. My name is Naomi Bussinger, and today I wanted to tackle the topic of control. It's a doozy. I'm going to try to keep this short. My goal here is to make these shorter and shorter so that it does not take up so much of your time, but still delivers good content. So control is something I've definitely struggled with my entire life. Many of you know my story. You know that trying to control things just led me nowhere really fast. It's heartache and heartbreak. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let's just quickly go over 3 women that we know very well in the Bible and talk about how control looks like in their life and how it affected them differently. And the first one, early as we can read about, is Eve. Eve's in the garden. She's been literally given everything except for one tree. Satan comes along and he does what he does best. He manipulates, he deceives. He tells Eve, you can eat of the tree. Let's read the scripture. Genesis chapter 3, verse 4. You will not certainly die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good from evil. So Eve's thinking, of course I'm going to eat this. Who doesn't want to know good from evil? Look how many, I want that. That's a form of control. Pride and control. And she got Adam roped into it. And what do we have? The fall of humanity. It's where it all started. It's where sin happened. And a lot of it came from control, in my opinion. The next one that I would like to talk about is Sarah. Sarah was married to Abram, who we later know as Abraham. Abraham was given this incredible promise, this covenant he made with God. God said, not only am I going to make you a father, but I'm going to make you a father to many nations. From Abraham came Israel. They were older in age. And as the years went by and no child was born, Sarah's like, okay, so I'm not getting pregnant. Why don't you, Abraham, take my maidservant Hagar and have a child with her, because surely this must be what God wants. I mean, if he wanted me to have one, I would have had one by now. People who have issues with control don't wait on God very well. And we see this with Sarah. So Abraham agrees. Hagar has a son named Ishmael. And then later, Abraham has a son by Sarah, Isaac. And they fought like crazy, Isaac and Ishmael. And because of that decision, because of that issue with control, all these years later, guys, the direct descendants of Ishmael is the Arab descendants, the Arab people of today, who fight to this day with Abraham's people, the people of Israel. It hasn't stopped, and it all came from an issue with control. And as we look further in the Bible, surely there are many more examples of this, but the last one I wanted to highlight was Mary and Martha, when Jesus comes to Martha's home to eat. Let's read all of these scriptures. This is Luke chapter 10, 38 through 41. Now it happened as they went that he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore tell her to help me. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things. But one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her. So when we hear this story, a lot of times we hear about, don't be too busy, don't be too busy, don't be too busy, because Martha was clearly busy. But if you think of it in terms of control, there's also an issue of control there, because she was so busy and she was angry that Mary was not helping her, she's thinking, okay, well, I'm going to tell Jesus, isn't this ridiculous? And he's going to make her help me. That is manipulation. That's control. And his response is, look, she's doing the right thing, and that's not going to be taken away from her. You know, how many times have we been in that situation? Women, I know that you can relate to her, because to host anything at your house, you know, there's a to-do list a mile long that we all have. And it is easy to get both busy, but also have controlling issues. I mean, maybe it's just me speaking. Maybe. But I know that it is. It is so easy to get wrapped up into control. And this can go into many different areas of your life. This can be in areas with your friends, with your family, your spouse, your coworkers, clients. It's very easy, even with the best of intentions, to fall into a controlling trap, which can be manipulative. And you don't want to be that person. You want every action that you have to scream God, to show Jesus' light. You know, all the years that I spent trying to control my life, trying to make things happen that should have never happened, only led me to a really rough road. Lots of heartache, lots of despair. And to be honest with you, there were many times I didn't think that I would ever come out of that. Thank God, with His grace I did, but it was only at the point of surrender. It was only at a place where I was at a rock bottom that I was like, okay, God, I'm yours. Like, I'm gonna stop. Obviously, this has not worked for 30 years. My life is yours. It was only when I came to that point where He began to be able to turn things around, because I let go. You know, I kind of opened my palms, let go of my grasp, and let Him do His thing, which He does so well. I had somebody within the last few months with the best of intentions tell me, yeah, but maybe this was God's path for you, even though it was painful, because if you didn't go through it, you wouldn't have these stories to tell. You wouldn't be able to help women the way you do now. Which, I mean, I hear that logic. I do. But it's not true. And the reason it's not true is because we are called to line up our actions, our word choices, our thoughts to the Bible, the living, breathing Word. We are to test everything we do and line it up with the Bible. And does it agree with the Bible? If so, then it's honorable and just, and go ahead. But if not, we should reconsider and think, why are we wanting to do this? This can't be God's will if it doesn't line up with God's teachings, with His desires. And I know that path that I chose to take was not God's will, because it didn't line up with what God calls us to do. It didn't line up with a life of holiness. There could never be any part of sanctification in that life. But with God's grace, because I relinquished control, He was able to take all of that destruction that the enemy was trying to use for evil, just like the Word says, just like some of our worship songs recently say, and He was able to turn that for good. You know, it was no longer, Naomi, you're going to be destroyed by this. Naomi, you don't want to live anymore. Naomi, you're horrible. Naomi, no one loves you. It was no longer any of that. It then became hey, this happened to you, but this is your testimony of God's grace, of God's favor, of God's love, God's determination, and His control, and His ability. I just wanted to bring that up today, because I think in the world's time, not only do we have to be careful about everything we say and everything we do, and I know that Thurman touched on that this week in his devotional, but we also have to let go of control. You know, stop trying to see the end game from your point of view and make sure you're lining it up with God's perspective and what He wants. He's going to work it out in the end every time. You don't have to sweat a thing. I love you guys. I'm praying for you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.